Hi, so welcome to the Scorpio full moon. This is my absolute favourite moon of the year, and I'm really excited to share this session with you. So thank you all for being here. Thank you especially to those of you who have got involved with Rock and Ritual, which is my little side project for anyone that hasn't. As you will see, if you're new to this, I talk a lot about the ritual tools that I use in my own practice and to share with you guys. And if these are things you'd like to engage with, I can send you out a box which has a kind of a greatest hits toolkit, which I do every month, and each box is designed to work with both the new moon and the full moon of that month. So you will have a variety of tools to get you through until the next big lunar season. So a soundscape is what I call my events, because they are obviously gong baths, but I feel like they are created from more than that, and they come from more than that for me. Soundscape is really for me a celebration of ritual. It's really about soul seeking, it's about exploring spiritual practice in support of finding a bit more fulfillment in our earthly realm and our earthly plane and lives. And for me, a huge part of that is sound, a huge part of it is yoga, practicing yoga, teaching yoga, but also huge parts of that are other aspects of ritual work, particularly working with crystals and reiki healing, and shamanic practice, which has become increasingly important to me in the last few years. And I think lots of us, particularly as we get older, and maybe our spiritual or yoga practice was the thing that kept us connected to our kind of psyche and our consciousness. I think as the physical body changes and your yoga practice maybe isn't as available, comfortable or fun as it used to be, it's really great to explore different portals and different ways into your practice. And I know my personal experience is that I will be 40 in November this year, and my physical practice in the yoga mat is light years away from what it was when I was 30 and certainly 20, when I could just flip into handstands and do all these like funky arm balances. And now, even on a good day, I'm absolutely knackered even trying, and my body does not work the same way. I can't bend my knee properly, and I think lots of people have this experience, particularly with yoga, and particularly at the moment with so much yoga online, in this surreal new world we're in. I think it's quite competitive, and people feel quite anxious if they're not doing all the poses. So hopefully some of these other tools give us an opportunity to access a spiritual journey in a way that we can craft to be really unique to ourselves. So we're going to get started by smudging. So those of you that work with a smudge stick, that have smudge sticks of any sort, or any other clearing tool you like to use, now's a good time to take a hold of that and start smudging your space. So those of you I've sent boxes out to will have a smudge stick or wand. Some of you that have been in my classes and practices before might have the desert sage I often use. And today I'm working with a variation. I normally use loose leaf sage, but today I'm using kind of sprigs, which are quite cool. So the way we smudge is to do a thing all Scorpios love, which is set fire to something. Nadia and Melissa will know all about that. But just let it burn long enough to get the smoke going, and then when you've got a nice fresh piece like this, you don't need to let it burn at all. It will just start smoking right away. But if your sage is a little older or not quite as dry, you might need to let it burn. Smudging your aura is really very simple. Taking a deep inhale, try not to take the smoke straight up your nose at first, especially if you're not used to it. And just gently passing the smudge stick around, first of all, the head area, the crown, the area above the head, is where your crown chakra actually is. Paying special attention as you pass the third eye, across the throat, the collarbones, across the chest. Be mindful that your body's 360 degrees. In a group session, it's quite nice to do this to each other, so you can travel the sage or your clearing tool around someone else's body and get the whole 9 yards. It's also great to sage the feet. So I went out too quick, I was a bit eager with my blowing out then. There we go. I love to sage the feet. The feet are an area of our body we don't give enough attention to, in my view. I'm a big fan of a pedicure. And we can tramp all sorts of negative energy and anxiety from space to space in our homes, in different shoes. It's really great to be in barefoot as much as you can, but that does open you up to picking up other people's energy as well, particularly if you're walking out on beaches or outside. So Be mindful to smudge your feet as well. If you're working with any other tools, if you're working with crystals, even if you've already cleared them, it's quite nice to smudge them with the same smoke that you've cleared yourself and your own space with. I have already cleared all of the gongs today, but I will always just show them a little smoke as well. If you practice Reiki, it's quite nice to work with either the harmony symbol or the activating symbol here. When you're happy that you've cleared your space up, you can set your sage aside and just take a few moments of breath, breathing softly and deeply into the base of the belly, into the lungs. And just gently arriving in your practice this evening. You're smudging, you're clearing, whether you're choosing to use a wand, smudge, Palo Santo, sage or something else, is really a practice of clearing negative energy, clearing out the old to make way for the new. And that's really the main theme we're going to be working with today overall. So it's nice to begin that practice as we mean to go on. If you don't work with sage or you don't like to smudge with herbs, another thing you can use if you happen to have one lying around is a little tuning fork. And this is really nice in any kind of crystal. So I'm working with smoky quartz today. We'll talk about that later. And you can create a single tone with which to clear your space using a tuning fork. Lots of other ways to clear your space. Throwing salt water over your shoulder if you're into Wicca is another popular one. Many choices available. So the Scorpio full moon is also known as the flower moon, and it's called the flower moon in pretty much every modality and practice, which is unusual. Most of the, I guess the kind of traditional farmer's almanac names, the flower moon, snow moon, blue moon, vary between shamanism, the Celtic and Gaelic traditions and Wicca, but the flower moon is universal. There's something really kind of centralized about it that pulls everybody, everything, every practice together. It's almost our halfway through the year full moon. It's the beginning of summer. It's often called lunar Beltane. We celebrated Beltane last Friday, which is officially the beginning of summer in terms of the farming calendar. But lunar Beltane is the first full moon after that, and this is really where summer kicks off. So if you're lucky like we are here in Cornwall and it's been beautiful today, then you will already be feeling that summer energy and noticing all the beautiful flowers and the kind of abundance of colour and life that's springing up right now. So this idea of cycles, this full moon kind of cycling from the new moon in Scorpio, which was the very end of October last year, the beginning of Scorpio sun season, the cycle runs from the new to full moon, so 6 months. And this idea of cycles has really got me thinking about beginnings and endings and the role of karma, which is a very Scorpionic symbol and trait, of course. So karma in a yogic sense is often referred to through sankalpas, the idea that we have these kind of soul debts that we travel through our life and previous lives and next lives with, and our journey is really all about repaying these debts or learning the lessons from them so we can release them and move on from them. And the same debts, the same karmic kind of messages will still keep coming back for us until we've learned the lesson they're trying to share with us. And I kind of love this idea of progression through lives or through a single life, if that's how you choose to frame it. But karma is really there to help us move forward, to learn lessons. People often use the word karma quite negatively, especially if you're a Scorpio. And really it's actually an amazing tool. It's something that's giving you an opportunity to keep moving forward and to keep progressing. So so this moon is a really big ending in terms of these karmic cycles. Scorpio moons are particularly intense, as anyone else has been getting like the power migraines this week will know. And they're kind of extra superpowered at the moment because we have 4 planets going into retrograde in the next few days. So we have Saturn, Jupiter, Venus and Pluto all spinning backwards over the next, I think, 5 days for various periods of time. And that means that everything is in this slight kind of stasis, pause, looking back before we go forward again. Looking back, checking in on the karma, checking what we need to release, what we've learned, what we can take forward, tick off the list and move on, and what we need to go through again to keep figuring it out. So this moon is powerful. It's quite difficult. and is really very embodying of this very intense energy that we all recognize for people born in November and late October. What's really useful to think about when we're working with this kind of karmic energy is what would you tell yourself at the other end of this journey? If you could go back to the beginning of this cycle, so end of October last year, very beginning of November, what would you tell yourself? Who were you then? What don't you know? What didn't you know then that now you do know that you can help yourself out with? What messages would be useful? It's also really good to think about what's changed. What have you learned in that time? What are you doing now that you wouldn't have done back in November, or what haven't you done that you would have done then? Really assessing your own progress and working out where things are at and how it makes you feel. Sometimes it's really great to journal this down, and I always invite you to journal as much as possible during and after these sessions for any messages that pop up. A really big thing to think about is what no longer serves you. What have you been chugging away at that actually just isn't going to be for you anymore? So one of the retrogrades I mentioned is Saturn retrograde. My gorgeous Saturn gong behind me, Saturn tattoo. Saturn has a lot of energetic resonance with Scorpio, and it's a really important retrograde to be happening at this time. The reason for that is that Saturn is actually retrograding back to about the 20th of March, which for most of us is the weekend we went into lockdown. So what it's asking us to do is to go back to that little mini cycle and just see what we've learnt in that phase. So nature has given us a perfect opportunity to reflect on this particularly strange few weeks that we've all been going through in a very surreal way. In a bigger picture sense, Saturn transits every 2.5 years. So the wider invitation is to look back at your life end of 2017, which for a lot of us seems a very long time ago, and just see what was happening then, how you feel about that, what's changed. Again, what has changed, what have you learnt, what serves you, what do you need to keep, what needs to go. So Scorpio energy is all about regeneration, rebirth and transformation, and these planetary energies that we're working with right now are giving us lots of opportunity for cleansing, burning out the old stuff so that we can start this transformation, leave the karmic stuff behind that we don't need, and then carry on learning lessons for the stuff that we need to progress. So if you are journaling tonight, now's a good time just to grab your journal, to take down a couple of notes, just have a little think about anything that's springing to mind out of that introduction. I'm just going to quickly go and open a door to get some air in here because it's so warm. So I invite you just to spend a couple of moments with your journal, perhaps continuing to smudge, and perhaps starting to set up your crystals if that's something you're working with. And I will be with you again in about 2 minutes. Are very patient. Thank you for hanging on for me. Just checking the list for who else has joined. Okay. Alright, so popping down your journal if you've been taking a few notes. So there's this kind of fear around Scorpios. I don't know if you other Scorpio friends have had that experience in your life. Scorpio energy is really related to death, to lots of other things as well, but certainly in terms of the traditional tarot reading, The traditional card for tarot is the death, for Scorpio is the death card. So I picked one today and I brought it from the Moonchild Tarot because this is a much softer and gentler expression of death than some of the tarot cards. And I think particularly at the moment we need to be as gentle with ourselves as we can be. And I mentioned before regeneration, and I have a Doctor Who analogy for this. Those of you that know me will know I rarely miss opportunities for Star Wars or sci-fi references, and there is plenty of Star Wars coming up, I promise. But Doctor Who never dies, he regenerates, and every time is not necessarily even better, it's just different. And it's, you know, in some ways karmically connected through kind of soul lines, tangents to previous versions of himself, but never quite the same. And I think that's what Scorpio energy really embodies as well. Just regeneration, change and evolution. A kind of death, but knowing that a death brings a beginning. And that's really what I want us to work with this evening. So Scorpio doesn't really allow illusion. This is a moon of difficult times, difficult decisions, power, intensity, change, and yes, death and endings. But those endings allow us to create new beginnings. And actually the ending allows us a vantage point with which to look back on where we've been so that we can move forward. It also means we can appreciate the beauty of where we've been, what we've had, what we've chosen, grown with, loved and lost, or loved and let go. So it's really nice energy to work with. So let's talk about the tools we're going to use tonight before we get into the sound. If you're working with your ritual space and you haven't already set up, then definitely do so now, because we're going to get into the sound very shortly. Just moving a few bits out the way so I can pull my little prop into frame. It's a little bit difficult with my quite minimal space here. Let's see if I can make this work. Okay. So, you're going to have a slightly awkward view of me. I need to lean down and not give you too much cleavage. So, what are we working with today? So Scorpio is a water sign. We're working heavily with the element water. And I always like to, as in shamanic practice, place an element at the centre of all of my grids. So what I'm working with today is a bowl of water here, which is not just any water. It's bath water, which sounds even crazier. I had a wonderful ritual bath this afternoon. If you're on my mailing list, I will be not sharing the bath, I promise, but sharing the recipe for the bath tomorrow with you. But this is a bath that involved a combination of really grounding earthy herbs like sage and rosemary, and cedarwood oil, and also palo santo oil, to try and ground a lot of this very fiery, intense scorpionic energy that we're in right now. And then on top of that, there's the real sensual sense. So I use jasmine and neroli, as well as frankincense and yang yang, which are also, as well as being really third eye opening and intuitive sense, they're also very much about the body and physicality and the sacral chakra, which is all stuff we're working with this particular lunation. I'm also using water in my singing bowls tonight, which you can't see yet, but I've used that same bath water. Looks like I took a bucket into the bathroom with me, but I took just a couple of scoops and put them in all my singing bowls, and that will slightly change the pitch and the frequency, which is always quite a treat to work with, just to use the elements to retune your instruments. So oils, a mixture of grounding, sage, rosemary, cedarwood, and then these more sensual ones, which are jasmine, neroli and yang yang. Obviously you can use mixtures of whatever you have. For me, this time I've actually diffused them in the water, and I've just flicked that all over my ritual toolkit, and I'm using that on my pulse points from under my jaw. And I'll use it at the end to help reground myself after the sound session. I encourage you guys to do the same. In terms of the crystals, those of you that have boxes will know that you're going to recognise the quartz and the blue kyanite. So this is a Scorpio full moon, but obviously we're still in the Taurus season. So it's a real hybrid of content. Taurus season is very grounding, but needs that kind of scorpionic third eye sensuality and intuitive stuff. So that's why blue kyanite is so important. And for you guys who are working with rock and ritual, you had blue kyanite in your candles, and you can see maybe just that I've got some blue kyanite also in my candle here, just beginning to melt down. So when these melt down, you can pull the wands out and use them in grids as well. quartz, clear quartz, is obviously the master healer. It's wonderful for all ceremony. It cleans other stones, particularly if you have a cluster. But the crystals I'm really working with, I've been super drawn to labradorite this week, and actually that's what's on my chain here that I wear all the time. Labradorite is this kind of beautiful grey, kind of opalescent stone, super high vibration. It's a real Scorpio stone, and it's really a code for transformation. About 2 days ago I came in here and just rounded up all the labradorite and started moving them around the house. So by the bed, by the laptop, all the places I go all the time, I started connecting this rock into those spaces, and it's just been really big for me this week. It definitely feels like the one. It's definitely also a great stone for times of change and kind of whether you're traveling or experiencing change in your life in any way. Labradorite's a really great companion stone, so one we could all use right now. This lovely big one here that I use with the tuning fork is a smoky quartz, which is not one I've been using loads and loads actually. I know Jo, if you're on, Jo's been saying she was using this recently as well, being really drawn to it, and I've got loads of it, but I don't really touch it that often. So I was really surprised to find myself really wanting to bring that into the grid this week. And smoky quartz is actually so different from clear quartz. It has a real grounding, cleansing role rather than a healing role. It's very much associated with the base chakra, and is particularly good for unblocking the lower chakras, the first and second, sacral and base. It's also really great for stress and mental health. So at the moment, I think maybe particularly with so many migraines and such a lot of stress, as I'm sure all of us that are fighting through the self-employment system on Government UK are facing, this has been a really important stone. So I've gridded this at the centre, crystal, the clear and smoky quartz gridded around my water, my central point. I'm also working with green aventurine still. That's been a theme through Taurus season, and that's a very harmonising stone, very gentle, very hopeful, which is a really nice aspect to have at the moment. And then these black tourmalines, all these little ones, you probably can't see them so well on my dark harmonium. This is actually my harmonium I'm using as a table today. My tourmaline is probably my most consistent stone. Again, it's heavily associated with Scorpionic energy. It is a protective stone, not as much as obsidian, but still extremely protective. It is a purifier, so it really purifies dense, heavy energies and brings them into a lighter space, which is something we definitely need at this time. And again, it's really healing for mental conditions, so great for stress, great for anxiety, PTSD, often heavily used in addictions actually, alongside hematite. And it's just a really comforting stone. I feel really comforted by it right now. So there you have it, the grid for Scorpio. I've arranged this in more of a classic grid today, as you can see, all the points pointing outwards. Basically taking this watery energy and sending it away from the centre to kind of release the pressure and send it out into your aura and out into the space around you. What we want to do with Scorpio energy is stop everything getting clustered and held in too tight. So that's the thinking behind doing a grid of expansion rather than something where everything's pointed inwards. And that's a bit more protective that way as well. So let me slightly tip my screen back up so I can see you better. Oh, it's not going to work. So you can also see on here, I do have the little tarot card. If you're working with tarot, the Scorpio card is the death card. Please don't be too put off. It is not anything to be afraid of. It's a card simply about regeneration, and about seeing the light in the darkness, which does bring me nicely to my Star Wars reference before we get into the sounds. So you will know I rarely miss these opportunities. But when people tend to get nervous with some of these more powerful and intense transitions, I like to use Star Wars as a really easy to access reference, that kind of universal battle of light and dark, good and evil, yin and yang, and particularly light and dark. And when I saw the last Star Wars movie around Christmas, I remember thinking they did push that very heavily, but it really helps me in my sessions, explaining it as workshopping, that you need the light to see the dark, and without the dark there is no light. They are a perfect balance. And actually, when you see the yin and yang symbol, which is reflected here on my gong, you know, the light is at the centre of the dark is at the centre of the light. They need each other. And the Force does need equilibrium. can't just exist without balance. If the force is imbalanced, we feel imbalanced. If the space around us, if our environment, our social group, our government, our country is feeling unbalanced and feeling anxious, that's going to come back into our space as well. And it's really important that we meet that imbalance with equilibrium, that we find a way to restore the balance, to find a little shadow to refract the light, and to find a little light to cast into the shadows. And then they aren't so scary. In fact, the secrets they need to reveal will show themselves as nothing more than little gems of wisdom. So if you've got yourself all set, ready for your meditation, we'll just make sure we're all ready to go in terms of cleansing. If you have worked with any rocks, I pre-cleansed all of mine before we began tonight, but do grab your sage, whatever you're smudging with again, if you're working with rocks that you haven't already cleansed. If there's one that's particularly speaking to you, now's a good time to take hold of it. And I'm going to use 2 of my labradorites, which have just been super powerful for me this week. And actually I did a shamanic journey last night with one of my shamans, the one I trained with, and I was holding these the whole way through, and they just felt like fire in my hands. I mean, they were just burning up. It was crazy. So it doesn't necessarily matter if it's exactly the thing for the season. As long as it's speaking to you, that's all you need. So I'll begin by setting intention for your session this evening. And whether you're holding something tangible in your palms, or maybe your palms are just open, or they've naturally popped into a mudra, or maybe you've chosen to take your hands over your heart center or somewhere else on your body. Just become really aware of your connection to your hands, your connection to all the different physical aspects of your being. Take a deep inhale in through the nose, exhaling through the lips in a soft sigh. And allowing your intention to find its way into your mind. So maybe your intention is really clear and you already journaled it, and you began this session, arrived in your space this evening, knowing perfectly well what it will be. Maybe it's just waiting to show itself to you right now. See if you can bring your intention back around to these themes that I've been talking to you about for this half-hour introduction, talking to you about karma and cycles, beginnings and endings. Maybe your intention is clearly connected to something that was happening for you during the Scorpio new moon last November, or maybe through the beginning of the Saturn transit, late 2017. Maybe it's completely different and not connected at all, and that's fine too. These various keys and codes are just portals and doorways for us to begin our journey. We don't have to stick to them. There are no rules. Just because I'm using certain things or saying certain things doesn't mean you have to follow them at all. You can do exactly as suits you. If you've needed to write your intention down, and set your journal aside, and now come to either a seated or lying position, whatever's comfortable for you. We'll begin with a visualized meditation with the sound bowls, and from there we'll be moving into the gongs with just a short pause in between. So maybe you might want to get lying down so you don't have to move too much, or maybe you like to do an intention meditation and then completely let go for the gongs. I invite you to do exactly as suits you at this time. As you come to rest, taking a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Inhaling, feeling the breath as it nourishes your body and your soul, and exhaling, taking with it any little shreds of extraneous matter, anxiety, emotion that you don't need, that don't serve you anymore. Breathing in prana, positive energy, life force, the light. Exhaling the dark, taking just what you need from it. There'll be something. Breathing in one more time, really noticing the skin on your body, the texture of the air as it brushes against you. And exhaling gently, feeling as though your skin isn't even there, like gossamer, so light. If you're working with crystals today, maybe thinking specifically where you wish to place them, maybe on the body, maybe in the auric field. To visualize the moon above your head. Whether it's above your face or above the crown is up to you, but visualize it full and luminous. A gold and silvery light being cast from the full moon down to your body. Feel warmth beginning in your crown of your head, reaching through your temples, through your ears, across the cheekbones and down through the throat, feeling that warmth moving from the crown down through your body, through the chest, through the shoulders, the arms, sparkling into your fingers, and feeling the warmth moving down the limbs, through the core, through the hips, through each leg and down to the tips of your toes, and then feel that warmth, that light push out through the soles of your feet. It's going to be a dark light when it emerges from the feet. Again, start at the crown, feel warmth moving through your body, faster this time. Like battery power, like fuel, feeling it draw through all of the organs, through the pranic organs, the energetic body as well as the physical body and the mental space. Warmth, that light pushes down all the way down through the tips of the toes, and whatever you need, the darkness, the stuff you want to let go, emerges through your feet. Maybe it's dark light or shadows or dark sludge. Come back to the crown and once more feel the warmth, the light, that silvery golden moonlight move through your body, vibrating down through each bone, each muscle, each energetic cell. Feel that light turn to darkness in the feet, and the darkness leaves your body, pushed away, leaving only what serves you, letting go of what doesn't. Maybe at this point placing your hands on the sacral area, so just around the womb area for women. It's a little bit higher for guys. Allowing your focus to come to the concept of forgiveness. Forgiving yourself, maybe you're forgiving somebody else. Maybe forgiving that person you were 6 months ago or 2.5 years ago that you revisited in your journaling. Maybe forgiving something that person did or didn't do, or maybe that somebody did to you. Focus on letting go. brushes tickling your cheeks. You can hear the birds and smell flowers, because there's flowers everywhere, and as you walk you realise you're walking through wild flowers, miles and miles of them behind you, and now just a little cliff ahead of you. And you run your fingers through the flower heads, and they're violet and pink and orange and yellow. And you take a deep breath in and you feel contentment, release, gentleness and softness that comes with letting go. And finally you find yourself at the far end of the cliff top, the last few steps, and as you ascend slightly uphill to the peak, the ocean pops into view. Miles of bluey green ocean, glassy and still, stretching out to the horizon, the element of water, offering transformation through fluidity, constant shape-shifting, constant ability to change, to regenerate, to transform. And as you turn and look across the ocean towards the horizon, you see the moon rising full, just like it is right now. Luminous silvery golden light, an ethereal, magical, faraway quality that somehow seems so familiar. And as you watch the sunset and the moon rise, you know that it's that moon that's keeping the ocean so still, because the moon, when it's this close to Earth, a supermoon, affects every drop of water on this planet fundamentally. And you know that you are 70% water. And that glowing luminous moon is giving you the space you need for healing, for softness, for transformation. Very softly now, if you haven't already begun, to bring some small movements into your fingers, your toes. Softly allowing the head to drop side to side, reconnecting with your physical form, with your earthly vessel. Now's a good time to take a couple of big deep breaths in through the nose, feeling the breath find its way all the way down into the base of the body, deep down into that sacral area, ruled by Scorpio, and down into the root chakra. Feeling out your connection with earth, feeling out of the body for your connection with the moon. Bringing your intention back to mind and recalling whether you were releasing or forgiving, manifesting, nurturing. Holding your intention in your heart for a moment, honouring it, thanking it for giving you your journey this evening. And slowly finding your way out of whatever position you're in, or maybe choosing to stay. The great beauty of being at home is you don't have to move at all if you'd rather stay cocooned in your safe space. Honouring your journey, whether near or far. Feeling gratitude for where your sonic magic carpet has taken you tonight. And for those who feel called to come and close our circle this evening, drawing yourself back up to a seated position. Palms open at the knees. As you take a deep inhale, drawing your intention, your attention into your third eye, the space between your eyebrows. Taking a deep inhale in through the nose and out through the mouth. Breathing in. Holding on to those qualities of transformation and rebirth and opportunity. Breathing out whatever needs to be let go. Whatever karma you've completed, whatever cycle has reached the end of this journey. Drawing your hands to heart center. Allow your third eye to drop towards your thumbs. Thank you guys so much for being here and sharing in this magical Scorpio moon energy, which I love just so much. It's felt so great today. If you've been working with crystals, it's really good just to take a hold of them. They may have fallen off your body or rolled off somewhere. That always happens to me. Just reconnect with them back where you started and thank them for their guidance. Make sure you deprogram them, re-cleanse them with whatever you use to start with. If you're working with candles and light, it's always nice to close circle by taking your candle, by looking straight into the flame for a little while, thanking it for its light and guidance, and recognizing that the shadow also needs its turn. If you feel called to journal, I really recommend that. That's a wonderful thing to do after any session. And on the housekeeping front, just reach for your water. Make sure you've got some liquids coming in. We're working with the water element, so it's particularly important right now to spend time in water. If you're fortunate to live by the sea or a river, then do all the splashing you can through this Scorpio moon. Meanwhile, make sure you stay hydrated. It's always quite dehydrating being in deep meditation. Stay warm. You may have noticed your body temperature drop if you stayed with the sound the whole way through. Be kind to yourself. This is an intense and deep moon. I felt it so hi-fi this week, I can't even tell you. And I'm seeing and hearing so many people having really big, intense experiences where they're just tears and emotion and anxiety, everything overwhelming and overflowing, or just going completely inwards and just having to cocoon and curl up and go into their inner vision, their inner landscape and solitude. And make sure you honour whatever is true for you. The sound will take about 3 to 4 days to work through your body, so you can expect some additional little releases, probably sometime around Sunday. You may notice over the next few days feeling heightened or sleeping better or worse. That's also typical of a moon, but particularly of a sound journey on a moon. So again, be mindful. If you have any questions at all, I'm always here for you. Please feel free to drop me a message in whichever way we normally communicate. And I guess if you guys have any questions, it'd be great to see you on chat. Let me know how you're feeling, what you thought. If you had any images or visions or anything that came up for you, or if you just have questions or want to know anything about the cards or the crystals or anything else I used this evening. Thank you all very much for being here. It's great to see you all. At some point we might do this where I actually can see you all, because it's quite nice at the end to say hi, but equally I think after sound often everyone's so zonked you just want to slope off and pull your duvet up. Thank you all very much. Oh, and if you'd like to connect with sound, I forgot to do my own promo. If you'd like to continue connecting with sound, these soundscapes are always on moons, so the luxury while we are at home is I can do them actually on the moons. I'm not trapped into having to work with venues on dates. So the next one will be on the 22nd of May, which is, I believe, a Thursday, and that is the new moon in Gemini. If you are interested in rock and ritual, the Soundscape boxes, subscription boxes, they have a content value of around £70 to £80. They sell them for about £50. And the next one is going to be launching tomorrow on my social media, and that will be all of the kit you need to see you through the Gemini new moon and the Sagittarius full moon, which is June the 5th. If you would like to join for short sound sessions during the week, we have half-hour sessions, which I'm doing on Mondays and Wednesdays. That varies a bit. I do upload these to my website as on demand, so you can just jump on for free or put £3 in the pot if you like. And they are there for you, refreshed every week, so if you just want to get a quick fix. Mondays we talk about the daily moon and its gongs and kind of everything. Wednesdays is just crystal bowls. I'm also doing those on Facebook Live and Instagram Live, so if you happen to like those channels, then you'll be able to connect live, or if you prefer to watch them on your own time, then visit my website. That's quite enough plugging. Newsletter's out tomorrow with all this information in it, so please feel free to give it a read and give me your thoughts. Thank you all. I'm going to stay and have a read of your messages that I can see. I've got to do one of these where I get glasses or get my screen a bit closer. But thank you all for being here, and have a lovely, gorgeous full moon. It looks really clear, so hopefully you can go and have a good look tonight. And yeah, stay safe, stay light, stay home.